There is a drug epidemic happening here in America. Our fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, nieces, and nephews are dying each and every day. Enough is enough. It's time to fight back. Welcome. You are now about to witness the beginnings of the underground church in America. Our government has been infiltrated with Luciferians, and our cities have been infiltrated with madness. They want our heads. They want our silence. This is our response in Christian resistance. We are a select few of Christian soldiers, and we need to know, are you down? And now, for the minister.
Super Soldier!
Gangsters, welcome back. Welcome back, man. It's been a minute. I really like to thank everybody that's been giving my video comments and likes, and man, you guys really making my channel blow up, and I just really appreciate that. So I got a story I'm gonna tell you, and I think this story's from about 82, somewhere in there, 1982. And at the time we were living in San Jose, I have some San Jose stories. I got some Santa Rosa stories. I got some stories from down in Fresno. So I'm always all over the place, you know. Originally, I am from California, you know. And even though I moved in the late 90s to Texas, you know, I can't get California out of me. It's something that's in me, you know, instilled in me, you know, the culture and the Chicano culture, and you know, I mean, I got to see some things when I was a kid, you know, and some places and whatnot. But today, I'm gonna be talking about my brother. So I have my late brother, right? And in San Jose, I gotta say, it was like the late 70s, early 80s, you know. He lived his life a renegade, you know. He lived his life the way he wanted to live his life, you know. And by 13, he got a sentence, you know, where he had to go serve some time, and he went to go serve time in California Youth Authority. Okay, in California we call that CYA, California Youth Authority, you know. So let me tell you about something about California Youth Authority. It was a prison for kids, but it was worse than a regular men's prison, you know, because the older kids that were like 18, 19, the older ones, I don't know if they're still there when they're 19, but they would take advantage of the younger kids. And you know, I remember my brother telling me that, you know, how they would take it, you know, when he first got there, they would take your shoes. They'd take anything that they wanted, really, you know. And at the end, when he was getting out, he was the person that was taking people's shoes and whatnot, you know. And anyways, it was just a all around bad place for people to go. I'm surprised they even have it open, you know. But I remember visiting him when I was a kid, and you know, it was up by, I remember we would go up by, was it Stockton or Modesto? I can't remember. My mom seems to think that it was called Angels Camp. But I remember when we'd first go in and they would check everything in there, you know, there was kind of like off to the side, there was kind of like a cafeteria off to the side, and then you'd go into this big room with big circle tables, and you know, you'd sit down, or you can go outside too, I think, and kind of lay down, kind of like have a picnic. And sometimes they would let us bring food in, and sometimes they wouldn't, you know. And I remember visiting my brother. I remember the smells, I remember everything, you know, visiting my brother there, you know. And you know, I always see that he'd always be looking around. He'd always be even though we're talking, he really wasn't there. He was looking around. He was you know, assessing the situation at all times, you know. And so the story I'm going to be talking about is that one day during his sentence, and it had to be on a weekday, man. And I was about 5 years old. At the time. And he's serving a 4 or 5 year sentence, right? And we wake up one morning, and he's asleep on the couch. You know, how could that happen? How could you be serving a sentence and then we wake up one morning and he's asleep on the couch, right? And it didn't take long for my mom to figure out that he escaped, right? He had escaped. And who knows how long he's been out there, but he came home that night and he was getting some much needed rest, right? And so you know, my mom, even though she didn't like it that he was in there, okay, he didn't like it, she could be at peace knowing that he was not getting in trouble, that, you know, he wasn't doing something that could get himself killed, right? You know, so, you know, you do the crime, yeah, and you got to do the time, you know. And so I remember her getting the phone and calling and saying, hey, you know what, my son escaped, he's sitting here on the couch, right? You know. And I mean, it wasn't 5 minutes, man, before we got some people at the door. And my mom met him at the door, opened up the door. And like I said, my brother was asleep. He wasn't getting up. He didn't even know any of this was going on, you know. And I still remember the officer's face, you know. It was a male officer and a female officer, you know. And when you escape, like, they're going to send some hitters to get you. They're going to send some people. They don't miss, okay? They're going to send some people to pick you up, right? And they had him dead to rights, man, asleep on the couch, you know. And they walked right up to him. And they're like, hey, we're here to take you back. And he looks up and goes, like, okay, you know what I'm saying? I'm going back, you know, no problem. And here I was, 5 years old, looking at my brother. And these officers, they look over at me. They look over at my mom. My mom's crying. You know, I don't know what's going down. You know what I'm saying? I'm 5 years old, man. I don't know what's going down. And for some reason, man, the officer decides, you know what? I'm not going to cuff him until we get outside. And I know he did it because out of the respect that I was there and my mom was there. And my brother wasn't, you know, he was already like, you got me. You know what I'm saying? You got me. So he wasn't trying to, you know, raise a fuss about, you know, he was going back, he got caught, and that was that, right? You know, so, but that was such a big mistake that he showed my brother pity, because I'm gonna tell you something. My brother is what they would call a real one, okay? He was a real one, let me tell you. And so he just got his hands and, like, you know, from behind his back, and he was just holding his hands. Well, the night before, my older brother, okay, my oldest brother, he had came in, and, you know, he had been drinking the night before, and he had at the time he was driving a 1949 Bel Air, and he came in that night, almost hit the front door. I mean, like, just 2 feet away. He parked 2 feet away from that front door. And so when you open the front door, all you saw was a grill. That's all you saw. And so they had to kind of scoot back and scoot over and to get past it. And so as my brother, he scooted past it, as soon as he was clear of that bumper, he was gone. Like, he was gone, you know. And it took the officer like just a second behind him. I'm talking about a second behind him. And he was running stride for stride. I'm talking about stride for stride. And my brother, he just made a beeline, just straight. And there was a fence. And he was going to go. I already know what he was going to do. He was going to run towards that fence and jump over that fence in a split second, right? You know, a 6 foot fence. And that cop was on him stride for stride, and reached out, grabbed the back of his shirt, you know. And my brother, it just happened in like a split second, you know. He turned around and he was gone. And the officer was left with the shirt, you know, in his hand. Meanwhile, the female officer, she was calling. They didn't have cell phones back in the day, so she was calling on the telephone, saying, "Hey, we got to discreet. This is going down right here," you know. And yeah, it was. anyways, there, my brother, he took, so there's school going on at the time, and there's a school. It was called Fisher. Fisher. Yeah, it was called Fisher. I think it was a junior high. This is all taking place north of the airport over there by Eastridge. So there's a school called Fisher, and my brother he takes off, and like I said, that cop was right behind him, man. There was a little entrance to that gate that lets you into the school. A little entrance in that gate. My brother bypassed that entrance to where the cop bypassed the entrance too, and then my brother jumped that fence, the chain link fence. He jumped it. I mean, he cleared it. It had one hand on the top of the fence as he cleared it, and like that was his MO. Like he told stories where he was jumping fences, jumping cars. Like when his adrenaline was pumping, he turned into like some kind of superhero, leap tall buildings in a single bound. Like, I mean, this guy wasn't going to catch him. So when he did that, the officer had to run back and go through the entrance and then run after him. Well, the whole time he's just jumping fences, hurtling over fences, and he gains a distance between him and the cop. And school's going on at this time. Okay, this is junior high. School's going on at the time. And so I didn't hear this part of the story until I saw him years later, until this part of the story when I had reminded him of what had happened, And so I said, whatever happened when you ran into that school? And he told me that he ran around a corner and there was a girl's bathroom, and that he ran into the girl's bathroom. And he ran into a stall. There was somebody sitting in one of the stalls, and that he jumped up and put his foot on the toilet paper dispenser, and then there was a rail that he jumped up and he grabbed up and put his, and he's looking at the person sitting on a toilet the whole time. And somebody, teacher said, "Hey, did somebody run in here?" And the girl that was there said, "No, nobody's here," And so here's my brother in the boxers and whatnot, and he waits a little while, and then he takes off. And then at the time, he had a girlfriend that was like, it was one backyard fence over, and he was at his girlfriend's house, and that he said that he ran, jumped the fence, went and got clothes, and he was on the run. He was on the run for a good while, And like I said, they made a mistake, because at that time, he was a real one. He was a real one, the way he was living his life, And even though that, he could, run fast, jump fences, total renegade, in life, he could never outrun himself. And sometimes, our biggest enemy is ourselves. Our biggest enemy is us, no matter where we go, we're always here, man. Always the ones to be causing problems, And my life didn't change until I realized that I was the problem. That I kept on pointing the finger at something. They did me dirty. They did me wrong. Until I realized that I was the problem. And my brother could never outrun himself, man. If you want to learn how he met his demise, I could put that. I made a video on that. And I'll post it somewhere around here, where you can go see. But there's some people that would rather forget my brother, that rather forget him altogether, and they can't, because every time they see my face, they're reminded of him. That he lived, because they got to say, hey, there goes one of the brothers, They're reminded every time they see my face that he lived, Just like when they see my face, they're reminded that he lives. There goes one of the brothers, right? Because even though he chose to live most of his life incarcerated and lived a hard life, man, died young. We are a lot alike, to tell you the truth. I'm also a renegade, but I'm a renegade Christian, you know, and I think about him all the time. I miss him very, very much. But I got some stories to tell about him, you know, and I don't know how many people has ever escaped California Youth Authority. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's a common thing or what, but you know what? You got to mark him down as one of them, you know, and it followed him around his whole life because every time he ended up somewhere, he was a level 4 because he was an escapee. You know, and there were, California Department of Corrections wasn't going to ever let that happen again, you know, so they put him, he was always a maximum security, you know, as he lived his life, you know, as he went to the Old Folsom, as he went to Corcoran, you know, he was a level 4 and it always, you know, his decision had always followed him around, you know, and, towards the end of his life, he wasn't the same. That he was just a kid when all that happened, you know, and towards the end of his life, you know, he wasn't like that, you know, at all, you know, he had changed and stuff, you know, he had changed in his ways and stuff, and he wasn't that rebellious kid anymore, you know, and, I hope he's doing well. I hope he's doing well. And so, anyways, I just wanted to come on and tell that story. I've been wanting to tell that story, but I just knew how hard it was going to be. I have a lot of stories about my brother, and in the by and by, I'll be sharing them, and I'll be putting them in a folder. I'm not going to let the world forget about him.